wave starts showing signs of abating, the threat of the third wave looms large. And the most vulnerable in this third wave could be our children. Even now, a lot more kids are being infected, and while they may be getting away with mild symptoms, one thing is clear: our young population is still very vulnerable to this virus. Countries like the United States, Singapore, the UAE have now started vaccinating teenagers, going down to ages as low as 12. When will the turn of our kids come? That's the one question that's being asked nationally.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Teenagers in New York have started receiving the COVID-19 vaccination.
Yay, congratulations.
At the Cohen Children's Medical Center on New York's Long Island, 15-year-old Brendan and 13-year-olds Thomas and Sydney were among the first adolescents to be vaccinated.
It feels nice because I can get back into going to school and traveling and spending more time with my family.
It feels good. Now I can meet with my friends and I won't have to worry so much about getting COVID. COVID's probably just a ton worse than getting a vaccine. So I think vaccine will really protect me against COVID. Then I'll go hang out with some friends who are also vaccinated as well. I'm also looking forward to hanging out more with my grandparents.
U.S. regulators authorized Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine for use in children as young as 12 earlier in the week.
We know kids spread it, and clearly adolescents spread COVID. And so for the kids to be vaccinated and have a much, much, much lower chance, if any, of spreading it is really key to, one, obviously stopping this pandemic.
3, 4, 5.
Vaccinating younger ages is considered an important step for getting children back into school safely. U.S. President Joe Biden has asked states to make the vaccine available to younger adolescents immediately. Close to 6 lakh teens have already got their jabs in America. Singapore has also authorized the use of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for those aged 12 to 15 years. This as the country tackles a recent increase of infections.
Another piece of good news is that the Health Services Authority, HSA, has also extended authorization for the use of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for individuals aged 12 to 15 years. And our expert committee on COVID-19 vaccination has also weighed in on that endorsement, with their endorsement.
The Singapore Health Ministry says data showed the vaccine for younger people demonstrated high efficacy consistent with that observed in the adult population.
So both teams have assessed that the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine demonstrated high efficacy and safety for this age group of 12 to 15, and which is consistent with what we have observed for the adult population.
The UAE is the latest country to approve Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children between 12 and 15 years, as it looks to welcome kids back to school from the next academic year.
I got vaccinated on 9th of May. It was a very smooth process. I'm hoping now that my classmates and schoolmates can get vaccinated too as well in the coming weeks, because the age limit has increased to 12 to 15 as well, so we can go back to school.
This news of the COVID-19 vaccine for ages 12 and above has gotten me very, very excited. Getting the vaccine also gives me hope कि schools वापस revert हो जाएंगे online to physical, and this gives me hope that we can go to school physically and not be bored at our homes.
In India, experts have warned of a third COVID wave affecting kids the most. The big question is, when will India vaccinate its children? Bureau Report, India Today.
You've got a situation now where in some countries across the world, young teens are being vaccinated, whereas in India there is absolutely no vaccine on the horizon for youngsters. We know that a third wave is coming. We also know that by the time it hits, those under 18 will be the ones who will not be vaccinated, leaving them defenseless and vulnerable. States like Maharashtra are already preparing COVID care centers for children. Is vaccinating children then the only solution?
Even as India battles a second coronavirus wave, the threat of a third wave looms large. And experts say that it will be children who will be most vulnerable. Already, several children below the age of 18 years and newborns are now testing positive for COVID-19.
We have the protocol, we have awareness, we have trained pediatricians, we have had webinars directed at child-related COVID disease and so on. In a way, it is also reassuring कि बच्चों में serious disease नहीं होती, simple तरीके से ही वो फैलाए नहीं infection, ये एक part है, और simple treatment paracetamol वगैरह से ही उनका इलाज हो जाता है.
There are 160 million kids who are less than 12-year-old. That means we need to vaccinate 300 to 400 million people as soon as possible. If you do not do it, we'll have a serious problem.
States like Maharashtra have already set up a special pediatric task force in anticipation of the third wave that will procure medicines, ventilators and build COVID care centers for children.
सरकारच्या विज्ञान विषयक सल्लागारांनी एक इशारा दिलेला आहे की देशामध्ये तिसरी लाट येते आहे, सावध रहा. सावध रहा म्हणजे काय करायचं? तर नवीन काही नाही आहे त्याच गोष्टी.
There are innate immunity is much more higher, and also the second one is there is a recurrent infection, viral infection. Because of that, the immunity is much more better. Third one is there is high concentration of melatonin. Fourth one is probably they might have had mild coronaviral infections previously. Fifth one is because they are given immunization with live vaccination. Because of that, the immunity power is much more higher.
The World Health Organization, however, says there is no evidence that the third wave will impact kids.
Children, we've seen from the beginning that while they can get infected, especially children under 10 are usually asymptomatic, usually not picked up and don't get sick, and it's very rare serious events that we see in children who are infected. You know, the multi-organ inflammatory syndrome, it's a very rare complication.
While the COVID threat for children does exist, the only solution, the vaccine, seems to be a long way off. The government's expert panel has cleared phase 2 and 3 trial of Bharat Biotech's Covaxin on children between the ages of 2 to 18 years. Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine has been approved by the US FDA for 12 to 18-year-olds. American President Joe Biden has asked for immediate vaccination of young teens. Moderna is also conducting KidCo vaccine study for kids aged 6 months to 12 years. One thing is for certain, we need to protect our children and do so fast. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me on the broadcast at this time, because this is a story that I have a deep and personal interest in, because it impacts virtually everybody who's watching this broadcast at this time and has children of his own. I want to introduce Dr. Raghuram Malaya. He is the director and the founder of the Amara Human Bank at Fortes La Femme. Harina Virkaroda is here in her capacity as a mother of young children. We have Dr. Kiran Sethi, another person who's very, very closely associated with the medical practitioner business and also looking at what's happening with vaccination globally. Maninder Singh Dhaliwal is at the Medanta's Pediatric Critical Care Unit. We have Karan Sharma, a student, wants to go to Canada to study further and now very confused about whether that option is available at all or not. So let me go across to Dr. Raghuram first, because is it true to say that in the third wave, children who've not been vaccinated and youngsters will not be vaccinated will be most vulnerable? Is this now an accepted medical fact, or is this just one of those theories that are doing the rounds on WhatsApp?
Hi, Rahul. I don't think there's anything very clear about any of these, whether the third wave is going to affect children or not. But nothing about corona, as you know, is predictable. Every time it's caught us by surprise. And I think the most important thing as a fraternity, we need to be very well prepared this time. There is a lot of theory saying that because it's been moving down the age group, if you know the first wave affected the older people and then it came down to the younger and middle age group, there is a very strong possibility. As a virus, the virus will always try to survive, so it will find a host who's most vulnerable. So obviously the ones will be vulnerable, say 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line, are the ones who have not been vaccinated. And those will be the younger age group children, maybe starting as low as 6 months to 18 years will not have the vaccination. So going by the way the virus behaves, if we have another wave, then they might be the most susceptible people.
Do you share this view, Maninder Singh Dhaliwal, the growing concern that children are most likely to be most badly impacted, because we've seen internationally as older groups of people get vaccinated, the fatality rates in those age groups come down. So just logically speaking, it seems highly probable. Does your medical sense back that as well?
So there are two schools of thought. The first school of thought, as Dr. Raghuram has already told, that it's a probability and we should not neglect it. We should be prepared for it. But the second school of thought is we might be overkilling it. Third wave is a possibility, but not a definite possibility. And if you see in the other countries also, like you can take example for UK, they also have the similar 2 waves, but the second wave was not so damaging for the kids. So I don't feel that we should be creating a panic, but caution is definitely advised.
How have children been impacted, Dr. Dhaliwal, in this wave in comparison with in the past? My children had COVID. They recovered after a few days. Is it your sense that more children are getting infected? Is it in any way, in comparison with the first wave, more spreading more easily or more deadly?
So first of all, there is no doubt that the caseload has increased in this wave. There's no doubt about it, because everybody is taking at least 10 to 20 teleconsults, pediatricians all across the country, and the children are getting positive. So as compared to the first wave, definitely the caseload has increased. But if you see, the caseload of the whole country has increased. So similarly, the caseload in pediatrics has also increased in the same proportion. And this time, maybe the virus was more infective, and that's why even if one person got infection in the household, it transmitted to everybody. So definitely this strain also has little part to play in it.
Dr. Kiran Sethi, as a doctor yourself and as a mother of a young child, how are you wrapping your head around this challenge of, you know, having your daughter as the only one who would not have had a vaccine over the next few months, even as you yourself and those in your family would have by then been inoculated?
Well, you know, clearly my concern is that, as our doctors have already said, that we don't know exactly how the virus will mutate. Currently, it seems that children do seem to recover, and it seems not as fatal as it is in older populations. Would a next strain be different? It's possible. Is it for sure? I don't think anyone knows that. But my concern is, if it does happen, are we doing everything we can to prevent it via vaccination? And then the other concern as a mother is, well, what side effects will we see in our children? And what age group will we see those side effects? There's a lot of fear in mothers about vaccination already. And then to vaccinate our children, many mothers, I think, would have concerns about, well, then what's the downstream effect of these? And since we just don't have enough data on even these current vaccines for what the long-term side effects will be, I think that would be a concern for a lot of mothers out there.
Karan, can you explain your situation to us? From what I gather, you have to go abroad to study, and the university is asking for a certificate of vaccination which you can't get in India. Just explain what's going on. You're on mute. You're on mute, Karan. Just unmute yourself. Okay, give me a moment as I fix that connection. And I just want to show you meanwhile what's happening internationally, because American universities are getting ready to welcome students this fall, but they have one condition: all students getting back to school need to be double vaccinated. The mandate has left Indian students in the lurch as vaccine shortage continues to cripple India's vaccine progress.
The United States is reopening and returning to normalcy. Universities are opening up again, and from the fall semester, online classes come to an end. But here's the catch: every student in the campus will have to be vaccinated. Over 360 public and private colleges across the United States will require students to get a coronavirus vaccine, and experts expect more colleges will follow suit. Indian students are now wondering how they'll ensure their vaccination because of a number of challenges.
3 vaccinations which the school approves are Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson. And at present, even after repeated conversations with them, they are still in consideration of the fact that if the vaccines in India will actually be approved by colleges or not. Having said that, even if we do go ahead with getting vaccinated here, which seems to be the plausible idea, so that we're all safe, it's going to be difficult to get revaccinated in America because you need those vaccinations to have full access to the university. Otherwise, there'll be weekly tests for sure, and we'll not be allowed to use the entire campus or have access to the classes which are full of, which are in full capacity of students.
Whether we'll be able to fly to US in time or not, because me myself, I deferred from US last year, and this year many of the other students cannot defer, so our admissions might get cancelled.
Some universities have said they will ensure vaccination of their students, but that will mean students miss out on a month of their classes. The US college's order makes sense for a country that's had a smooth vaccination drive so far.
I think students have no qualms or issues at all about getting vaccinated. There is absolutely no scarcity of vaccines in the US at all. I think it's only a matter of religious or personal beliefs that might prevent certain students to get themselves vaccinated. But otherwise, I think with the fall semester in sight, they have plenty of time to get everyone on board with the plan of getting everyone vaccinated.
Indian students are now appealing to the government to help them out. They're struggling to get their visas, they're clueless about flight operations, and now face the vaccine mandate.
I am trying my best to get the vaccine before I leave. So I have spoken to a few people. I am trying to pull some strings and get the vaccine so that I can go in time. This is because I've already taken a gap year after my graduation, after my undergraduation last year, and I don't want to waste another academic year before I leave.
India is far behind in its vaccination drive when compared to United States, and this kind of mandate will affect lakhs of students who are to head abroad for their studies. Bureau Report, India Today.
So you have what is actually a very difficult situation where first the adult, more vulnerable part of the population very clearly needs to be vaccinated, but unless these youngsters, the teenagers, can get vaccinated, they can't go abroad to study, and that ends up running the possibility of one more year getting wasted on the back of what happened last year. Karan, can you tell me your story? You wanted to go to study to Canada or still do and aren't being able to, so tell us exactly what's going on.
Sir, firstly, am I audible?
I hear you well, yes.
Yeah, so thank you first of all, Rahul sir, for having me here. So now I'll be explaining what I'm going through. Actually, I'm in my final year of my BCom honors, and I plan to go abroad for my further studies in Canada. So I was actually aiming for the September intake, and due to the postponement of my final year exams, I have been denied my September intake. So now I am planning for my January intake. So due to COVID, my exams got postponed, and eventually my dream of going in September didn't work out for me. So now I'm planning to go in January.
Now this is a painful situation, Harina Virkaroda, for people like Karan to be in, because you're just sitting around wondering what will happen, locked up in a room, you're not inoculated, you can't go out, there is a lockdown 1 year. And when you're, say, 30 plus, if I could just very broadly say so, 1 odd year doesn't really make that much of a difference. But when you're as young as Karan is, every day, every year is so much significant in determining the direction your life takes.
Yes, I actually, I forgot to tell you that I just got my Covishield jab 2 days back. So yeah, it is very difficult for...
How did you manage to get a Covishield jab?
Yeah, I woke up 6 hours for the jab because there were a lot of slots there, and they were booking in just a blink of an eye. So I got 6 hours from 10 in the night. I got my slot at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was very difficult to get a slot, but I managed to get a Covishield. And the reason why I got Covishield was because not only it protects me from the virus, but it is the only vaccine which is authorized by the Canadian government, which is also available in India.
Now that, Dr. Raghuram, is the other problem. We did this analysis which said that if you've got Covishield, you are, and if vaccine passports become popular going forward, you have the possibility of traveling to 130 plus countries. At this moment, Covaxin is accepted and recognized only by 10 countries, largely in India's neighborhood. Therefore, if you've got Covishield, that's a huge advantage if you want to travel abroad after the second wave gets over, whereas that immediately may not be the case with Covaxin. If WHO recognizes Covaxin, that may change, but at this moment, that's a big limitation as well, Dr. Raghuram.
Yeah, Rahul, sorry, unfortunately, I can't see who else is talking because I can't see everybody on my screen. But yeah, that is a diplomatic issue which needs to be sorted out. But I think that is something that WHO and the Covaxin, as well as the government of India, needs to sit down and sort this issue out on a war footing, because it should not put somebody at a disadvantage because you've had a vaccine, especially because we don't have the choice to choose which vaccine we have to take. So I think that is something that needs to be sorted out, and I think that will get sorted out in the next few weeks or maybe a month.
Harina Karora, how tough has it been for you as a mother with your children to be able to keep them engaged, keep them occupied, ensure that learning outcomes are being met, ensure that they're being productive? If at all they're going to classes, tell us what's been happening at home.
It's a madhouse. So I have a toddler who is 1.5-year-old, and I'm a lactating mother to her. So for me, it's such a big task that the vaccines and the infection. Am I giving her the antibodies? And my the other one is 5-year-old. He's in school, an online school. It is so much to handle right now with this COVID thing going on. We have no idea where are we going, where are we heading. Sometimes it's like, we have some hope, then the other day is as gloomy as the other one. We really don't know what's going to happen. And this antibody thing, you're getting yourself tested again and again. Is it increasing, decreasing? For me personally, I got COVID in the first wave. So I was pretty much, I had no symptoms apart from one fine day I lost my taste and smell. So I didn't even have the chance to isolate myself. I was there with my 9-month-old daughter and my son, 4.5 years old, and I had no help. I did not know what to do. So, there's so much going on. We're really looking for answers. We're really looking for something to give us some hope that this will, end somewhere. So, just
Dr. Sethi, your daughter is older. How tough has it been to ensure that she stays plugged in on those online Zoom classes, and how have you been monitoring her learning outcomes?
Oh, I do the online school with her. I'm proficient at Play-Doh and at ABCs. So I actually end up doing all the online school with her, and we do it together. That's the only way I can keep her engaged. But it actually ended up being a really nice bonding experience for us. And then since, I'm home too, we just do activities, and I find ways to entertain her with home dance parties, and that's I'm lucky that I can do that so far, touch wood, we're both healthy. A lot of people don't have that privilege or that comfort that we're both okay. Yeah. But it hasn't been so bad. It was a learning curve, learning about online school and doing that, but I think we're managing it now.
And the big question is, when will kids get back to school across the world? Educational institutes are now reopening rather cautiously with online classes, no real-time interactions with friends, and fatigue setting in. Children's education continues to suffer in India during the pandemic in a big way.
For the last 1.5 years, education across the world has been disrupted by the pandemic. As vaccination picks up, schools and colleges are slowly opening up across the world, but not in India. With some experts warning of a third wave that could probably affect kids and no vaccine in sight yet for children, we have a long way to go before reopening of educational institutions.
So, welcome back, everybody.
Happy that you're back in school too.
The United Kingdom schools are open and even mask regulations have been eased as cases have gone down across the country. But the worry is of new variants and new strains emerging. That is why the UK government is being very cautious now.
At this stage, there is no evidence of increased cases translating into unmanageable pressures on the NHS, even in Bolton, and infections, deaths and hospitalisations nationally remain at their lowest levels since last summer. But I have to level with you that this new variant could pose a serious disruption to our progress.
Many countries hence have gone back on orders of reopening their schools. Like Singapore, the city-state has shut schools again as cases of kids testing positive went up.
He did mention that it would appear the B1617 strain appears to affect children more. Once we detect infection, but outside of school, MOE has been very fast actually to put the school on home-based learning for next few days and test the entire school.
In India, for over a year now, kids have been learning virtually. Online classes are now the norm, and without real-time interaction, fatigue seems to be setting in. Most parents are worried about children losing out on social interactions and skills. And researchers too are feeling overburdened. Central and state board exams for class 10 students have already been cancelled. And while class 12 students continue to wait to take the test of their lives, for now, their future hangs in the balance. Bureau Report, India Today.
So how should we handle this question? Because you've got very clearly a need to first vaccinate those with comorbidities, those who are older, younger people get away with milder symptoms, but that also means, Dr. Dhaliwal, that one more year goes waste. So last year, 2020, children didn't go to school. 2021, if there's no vaccine, they don't go to school again. How do you think we should be handling this?
This is a very valid question. So I like to answer this that we are always concentrating on COVID vaccine, but we must not forget there are other viruses and tropical diseases existing in India for which vaccine is available. And due to this COVID fear, parents are not reaching out for those immunizations, that routine immunizations. So I am not much scared of a COVID third wave, but maybe a COVID plus wave where there are a lot of preventable diseases like the dengue, the typhoid, the hepatitis. So the first step should be taking all the vaccine preventable vaccinations all across. And secondly, if you think that definitely it has a stress on parents and also the adolescent students mostly because they cannot go for online classes, the in-person classes, and they want to attend meet children of the same age group. I know it's a stress, but I don't think so. Lockdown switch off in India is not the first solution. We have to take control of the situation first in the next 4 or 5 months, and then maybe the lockdown switching off or will be a solution, but not right now.
Dr. Raghuram, what's your sense of how long this lockdown needs to continue for so that there is no big third wave in India in November, December? Does that mean we need to extend the lockdown out over several months? Now that cases are coming down, can we expect lockdowns to start easing and life to start returning to normal in a few weeks from now?
I think the lockdown will ease out over the next few days, but I think the more important question is when are we going to start the schools? And I think that's a very more topical question that one needs to answer. And I don't see the schools starting till a vaccination drive is started for kids. Most of the countries which have started going back to school, kids have started going back to school, have all realized now that the infection may start spreading from the schools itself. Because if you just put things into perspective, kids are actually super spreaders. Because A, you cannot make them wear masks. They're all in groups in school. It's very difficult to control what's going to happen. If everybody is under the assumption that kids are not going to get a severe condition and they usually recover from it very fast. But we've been caught out with this corona so many times now that you cannot take it so easy. And I'm sure most of the parents will be very apprehensive about sending kids without vaccination. The only way in which you can prevent kids either from getting or from spreading it to somebody else is by vaccinating them. So realistically speaking, I think the lockdown will ease out over the next few weeks as the cases come down, and maybe trade and other activities will start. But starting schools is going to be a bigger challenge. And till we get onto the vaccination for children for corona on a war footing, I don't see schools starting. Most of the parents who come to see me are very apprehensive. They're even scared to come to the hospital for their routine vaccines. Like Dr. Alwal is saying, there are so many kids who are missing their routine vaccinations. And one of the biggest problems that we're going to face in the future is vaccine preventable diseases. These are going to increase, like diseases like measles, mumps, rubella, for which vaccines need to be taken and people are missing. And this I'm talking about in an urban area. You can imagine what may be happening in rural areas. So there are multiple problems, and the only solution that I see is vaccination. And I also am being realistic that it's not going to happen in the next 1 or 2 months, but I think it is something that they need to really, really look into and work towards vaccination for kids starting from 2 to 12 years.
But the reality is that trials are still on. The only company that's attempting to ensure that vaccination can be made available for young children in India is Bharat Biotech. But trials are still on, so it's a long way, Dr. Dhaliwal, before the trials end, the approvals come through from the ICMR and the actual vaccination starts. And there are older people who have comorbidities, etc., who are still waiting to get vaccinated.
Very true, very true. We have no easy answer. So the schools opening, I think so, is not the right question right now. We are not thinking of that.
Dr. Sethi, are you reconciled to the idea of your daughter being home for 1 more year, missing out on 1 more year of formal school education?
No, definitely not. I mean, the interactive learning, the interactive experience that children need. They need to see people, they need to be with other children, they need to learn how to socialize, they need many different skills. It's not just ABC. It's a lot of intangible things that are enormously important for a child's development. A year, is one thing, but 2 years, 3 years, how long can we wait as mothers or as parents? Our children are suffering from it. It's not fair to them. And what's the balance is the question. How are we balancing it? How are we balancing the risk versus the benefits? How are we deciding when we're going to wait for these vaccination trials, for this vaccination availability? That data is not clear, and I think we need to really make an educated decision.
Well, these are tough questions, because while people are keen that kids go back to school, you're also keen on ensuring as parents, as educators, that the kids stay safe. And therefore, till the vaccination trials are completed, vaccine production goes up, vaccines are more easily available. This is a tough ask. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Stay well, stay safe. Wishing you and your children all the best. 1 more year being ruled out seems, unfortunately, very much the most likely probability at this moment, unless we can really scale up production of vaccination, ensure that we expedite the trials and then start vaccinating kids. But by the time we cover the whole country, I don't see how we'll be able to save this year. While we're all wishing for things to get back to normal, start traveling, the one question that's already started being asked, and this is because you need to address this question now so that it doesn't become a problem for international trips in the future, is which vaccine have you taken? Because if you've taken Covishield, you can travel to 130 plus countries that recognize Covishield, and if you've taken Covaxin, which at this moment is accepted by only 9 countries, and therefore we need to mount pressure on health authorities internationally for Covaxin 2 to be accepted as a globally designated vaccine. Take a look at the story.
A dose of a Caribbean vacation, a golden ticket to new intakes overseas. Hang on, a lot depends on your choice of vaccine, at least for now. A new reality on the horizon. The world is being bifurcated into vaccine silos. The Travel plans are determined by whether you took indigenously manufactured Covaxin or AstraZeneca's Covishield.
It is disappointing to see that Covaxin has not been approved by any major countries across the world. Our data suggests that Covaxin has only been approved by 9 countries overall, in spite of having an efficacy of more than 70%. If things continue this way, and with countries seriously looking at implementing vaccine passport and associated guidelines, overseas traveling Indians may be forced or pushed to choose one vaccine over the other.
Only Nepal, the Philippines, Mauritius, Iran, Zimbabwe, Mexico and Paraguay accept Covaxin certificates for entry. The rest of the world mostly accepts Covishield. 21-year-old Karan Sharma is in the final year of his college in Delhi. He is among 16.7 crore Indians who have been administered the AstraZeneca jab. The young man explains why he chose Covishield over Covaxin.
So the reason why I chose the Covishield vaccine for myself was because it is recognized by the Canadian government, and it will also ease my traveling process while traveling to Canada.
Karan Sharma's doctor parents made the same choice for travel reasons.
The reason we chose Covishield was because it is recognized in almost more than 100 countries in the world.
The dilemma is global. Chinese-made vaccines, for instance, are not recognized in the United States or Western Europe for now, and vice versa. The pre-qualification approval for India's Covaxin, developed by Bharat Biotech, is also awaited. Bharat Biotech has already approached the World Health Organization for pre-qualification, and the World Health Organization says it is in the process of reviewing the kind of data that has been submitted by Bharat Biotech. Bharat Biotech is obviously trying to tap the overseas market. The WHO pre-qualification is required if UN agencies like the Gavi and also the Vaccine Alliance need to coordinate with the company in question here to get this vaccine to countries other than the country where it has been developed. In this case, India. So this is extremely important. The WHO says the process of granting pre-qualification also involves detailed assessment about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. Countries are now discussing vaccine passports. France is allowing visitors from outside Europe beginning the 9th of June, provided they carry health passes. The European Union has agreed to accept travellers who have taken EU-approved vaccinations at least 2 weeks before their trip. No smooth takeoff for international travel in sight till the existing patchwork of approvals for COVID vaccines is streamlined globally. With Sai Kiran Kannan in Singapore, Sneha Mordani in Delhi for India Today.